Welcome back, Capital F football fans, to the O&O Sports YouTube channel, and welcome to week 0 of the 2025 college football season. Thank God it is back. We are here, folks. Let's start predicting these week 0 matchups. But first, as always, be sure to like and subscribe and stick around to the end of the video to see how you can win up to $100 this season. And this week, we're going over every single game because there's only 5 matchups, not that many to go over. And we're starting with Farmageddon, Iowa State versus Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland. The spread on this one is Kansas State minus 3.5. The over-under is 49.5. And that means FanDuel, which is the odds market I'm using, is predicting Kansas State to win 26-23 or around that. And I understand perfectly why the line is where it is, but I think it will go under personally. And that's because Iowa State loses its star wide receiver tandem. They're going to lean more heavily on that rush offense, which should be pretty good. And the Kansas State Wildcats are a very versatile rush team as well. I think this turns into a ground and pound type of matchup, which means not probably the highest scoring game unless we just see massive chunk plays, but I don't necessarily think that will happen. And on top of that, Ireland games over the last few seasons have only hit the over one time, so there's a little bit of superstitious luck to go with that as well. And if we're talking pure running backs, I think I like Iowa State's more, but overall as an offense, I like Kansas State's attack more. I like their offense as a whole more, and I think Avery Johnson and this wide receiver core that Kansas State has is going to be able to make the bigger plays in this matchup, and that's why I have the Kansas State Wildcats winning this game 23-20. Big start to the weekend, but next it is UNLV versus Idaho State. The spread on this one is UNLV minus 25.5. The over-under is 63.5. So FanDuel is projecting a big game for the Rebels in this one. They have them winning 45-20. And this is our first real look at Dan Mullen's UNLV. And it's coming against an Idaho State team that hasn't gone over 500 since 2018. But despite that, while I do like UNLV, this is their first real chance to shine. And I don't think they jump out the gate as a super dominant, highly efficient offense. They bring in 42 transfers, and in my opinion, there's just no way you don't see some kind of growing pain to start the year. I still have the Rebels winning, obviously, but just not by as much as Vegas does. I have the Rebels winning 36-13 in what should be a great showing for Dan Mullen's UNLV Rebels. And after that, it is Kansas versus Fresno State. The spread on this one's Kansas minus 12.5. The over-under is 50.5. That means FanDuel's got this one at around 31-20 Kansas. And there's a lot to like about this Kansas team. They add a solid group of wide receivers through the portal. They add running back LaShawn Williams from Iowa, who back in 2023 rushed for over 800 yards with 2 touchdowns, missed 2024 with injury, but should come back healthy this year and be a dominant force for that offense. And they retain Daniel Highshaw, another running back who's averaged over 5.3 yards per attempt in his career so far. So 2 great backs there. And on top of that, they retain Jalen Daniels, who isn't a hyper efficient passer, but he's one of the most pure dual threat quarterbacks in the country. He has a lot of explosive upside to counteract that less than efficient passing, and he's shown some great potential as a quarterback, and if he's dialed in this game, it could get out of hand. And with all that said, they also have an underrated defense this year. I think this could sneakily finish inside the top 5 in the Big 12 in terms of yards per play. They have a very experienced defensive line led by Dean Miller, and they add a lot of depth at linebacker and in that secondary to help bolster that unit. And the biggest thing for me is they're going to be going up against a rebuilding Fresno team that I'm not super high on this year. I like Matt Entz, not quite sure what he's going to be able to do at the FBS level. And while I do have the under hitting again in this one, I have Kansas covering. I predict the Jayhawks to win this one 32-14. Not the start you want to see if you're a Bulldogs fan, but there's going to be a lot to build off of going forward. And after that is another week 0 conference matchup. It is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers versus the Sam Houston Bearcats with a K. The spread on this one's Western Kentucky minus 9.5. The over-under is 60.5, and that means FanDuel has the Hilltoppers winning this one 35-25 in a high-scoring matchup. And I'm not quite sure what Vegas sees here, to be honest. I see 2 restructured offenses. Sam Houston's in a full-on rebuild after losing Case Lexi Keeler. And Western Kentucky loses Caden Veldkamp, their top rusher from last year, and their top 4 receivers. And for the Bearcats, I like the hire of Phil Longo for that offense long term, but I'm not as high on them this year in year 1 with him. And I'm definitely not super high on him in week 0 versus a quality conference opponent. And I do have my best bet this week being the under on this game. And while I do have the Hilltoppers reaching 30, I don't predict this to be a very high scoring matchup. And last this week, it is Hawaii versus Stanford, which has fight of the night potential in all honesty. It's a night game. It's in Hawaii. A lot of unpredictability for both of these teams. And the spread has actually moved all the way to Hawaii -1.5. The over-under is 52.5, which means FanDuel is predicting a Hawaii upset 27-25. I mean, obviously not an upset because they are favored, but a Mountain West team like Hawaii going over an ACC team is an upset in my eyes. As for Stanford, they bring in Andrew Luck, they bring in Frank Reich, and I could see them absolutely whipping this team into shape, and they're immediately a better team than they were last year. And I could see the exact opposite. There's just so much room for error there. They announced Ben Goldbranson as a starter, who is the transfer from Oregon State. Not super high on him, but he's a decent starter with experience. But they do lose essentially that entire offense from last year. Ashton Daniels, Alik Iomanar, and Emmett Mosley, who were Ashton Daniels' 2 top wide receivers last year. But on the other side, they do honestly have a couple of dudes. I love their edge rusher Tavara Tafiti and their nickel corner Colin Wright. I think those 2 guys will have a big impact on this game. But for the team across from them, it is Hawaii, and really the biggest question for them is, can they finally put it together after all these years? They return a modest amount of production this year, but it's from a team that wasn't good last year. And I have liked what I've seen from new starter Micah Alejado, but we just haven't seen too much from him, so I can't say for sure how good he's going to play this week. I do like Jackie Johnson coming off the edge, but this team and especially this defense just haven't been good in Timmy Chang's tenure so far. They haven't cracked the top 100 in either yards per play or yards allowed per play in those 3 seasons so far. And with all that said, this sounds like a prime capital F football game if I've ever heard one. And I am honestly buying into the hype. Give me Hawaii to win this one 24-23 to really shake up this season in week 0. Leave a like and a comment if you are excited for this season. And now for the end of the video, I want to introduce to you the 75 or die challenge. If I go over 75% of my predictions this year, you could win $50 by following these steps. And if I go under, you could win up to $100. So go ahead and subscribe, follow, and all the social medias to get entered into that. And with that, thank you for watching. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.